Let us continue forward in the Q&A. This is part 4 for 40,000 subscribers. We're getting deep into it. I will be answering some of the questions that were perhaps posted on the first 3 parts, but for right now, anything that is submitted past this point, I probably won't answer. So just want to clear that up, else I'll be answering questions until I'm dead. So let's get started. We have here from Invader Nick. This is more of a personal question. Did you ever get ridiculed for being a metalhead by your parents when you were a lot younger? Or were they okay with it? What advice would you give to all the younger folk who are struggling with this kind of thing right now? Whenever I was a younger kid, I was not a metal fan. Whenever I was in grade school initially, I listened to a lot of oldies and things like that. In fact, it was whenever I got into high school that I became a metalhead. And my folks were cool with it. My folks were alright with it, mainly because I was a little bit older and stuff like that, and they were ones to always be really encouraging to me. There are certain things that they were very, kind of protective about, but that was not one of them. If you're in one of these situations, it's really very dependent upon your household. It's very dependent upon, belief systems and what people prefer and what people don't. But see if you can work out some sort of system of respect between you and your parents, if you're going through this or anybody else is. See if you can sort of forge a little bit of a deal where maybe, it's something that you enjoy on your own time. You don't play it at loud volume so they have to hear it. Show a little bit of mutual respect, and hopefully you will get that mutual respect reciprocated upon you. Because aside from that, you're going to have to sneak it. Now, we had somebody last time, Lily Acanello, who just had simply said, if you had a dream. She is back with, if you could organize a festival, who would you pick to play? I believe I touched base on this a little bit before, but I think for like a CKN Fest, I would love to have a lot of the folks that were Album of the Year recipients throughout the channel's history. But also, it would be very much dependent upon bands that were big at that time, either that or what everything was looking like, because I wanted to have bands that were both bigger, smaller, bands that obviously were Album of the Year contenders. I wanted it to be a little bit of mix of everything, and I didn't want the main draw just to have to be, we have to have, Slayer. I would love to have Iron Maiden on the bill, but that would probably be very complicated to do, especially in the first version of a CKN Fest, considering there's no pre-established reputation to go along with it, but that would be the headliner of choice that I would want. SK Shockey says, who do you miss in the current music scene overall? And do you have some bands, artists, doesn't have to be rock or metal, that I would recommend? I really miss, what I really miss in the current music scene is actually not in metal music, because metal, I think, is continuing to diversify and become a larger branching pathway. I miss the fact that more people aren't taking the leap with a lot of this stuff and are being, they're really stopping their journey short just because they find one thing that maybe didn't suit their tastes. They immediately start to associate that with the rest of the plot. But I miss rock music that is a little bit more direct. I miss rock music that has a little bit more of a real focus on the instrumental side of it. It's not necessarily something where it has to be this technical masterpiece or anything like that, but if you listen to a lot of the rock from the 70s, from the real heyday of classic rock, you'll notice that a lot of that stuff has simple melody, but also it isn't something that is mindlessly simple. There's always something going on. It's always something that was morphing and had a lot to offer to a listener. I think a lot of the 3-chord nu metal and the 3-chord radio rock that many people complain about, they complain about it because of that simplicity. There's nothing more for it to really offer a listener aside from what you got. That's it. And that's really frustrating to listen to. So let's move on. Sebastian Ermas, what is the longest song that I have ever listened to? Well, we just listened to The Astonishing by Dream Theater. I know, they divided that up into tracks, but it was essentially a 2-hour concept album. If you really want just one song, It's either Light of Day, Day of Darkness by Green Carnation or Dope Smoker. And I think Light of Day actually beats them, because that one is 60 minutes and 3 seconds. I know that for a fact. Whereas Dope Smoker, I think, is in the 55-minute range. I would have to look that up. I have way too many questions, so I settled for this one. Ask a couple of the others, because I have a feeling this would be better. Record Jones asks, do you think 2016 is the year where System of a Down makes a new album? Also, do you follow any sports? I don't know. I think if System of a Down was going to be releasing something this year, we would have heard about, we've heard an inkling about it by now. But it could be happening sort of underground and behind the scenes. So, never lose hope whenever it comes to that. And as far as sports are concerned, yeah, I follow a lot of sports, actually. All of the big four major ones here in America, especially teams that have a Pittsburgh root. I follow a little bit of European football, but not nearly as much as I used to. So, unfortunately, whenever talking about tables and different matchups, I will be a little lost, but can kind of get by, And aside from that, I used to follow arena football a lot. I was like one of the only people I knew that knew what that was and followed it pretty well. And I kind of grew, I don't want to say I grew out of that, but I sort of stopped because I thought that they had folded, because they actually had a whole season where they didn't play at all. And they're back now. And there was actually a team in Pittsburgh for a couple of years, but I didn't get back into it, unfortunately. I missed my chance to actually go to a game. Chris Corvus asks, what are your thoughts on Satyricon? I've never seen you review any of their material yet. I think they are quite an important band. And do you think that all the hate geared towards them is warranted or not? I didn't realize there was a lot of hate toward this band, but I'm going to take your word. That whole entire subgenre of music gets a lot of hate slung its way. So, is it warranted? Probably not, I would say. And I haven't reviewed any of their work. I just haven't gotten to it, and I don't really do much in the way of older tomes. I don't mind the band. I don't really go to them very often. I think that they are okay, and I think that they are important in the development of black metal, but aside from that, that's about as far as it goes. Henry Prokop asks, I heard you mention in part 3 that you thought that the Red Hot Chili Peppers were a great live act. I agree. And I think they're a very talented and original band on record as well, so I would like to know, what is your favorite album by the Red Hot Chili Peppers? Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic. Might sound super duper typical. I don't care, actually. That album is their masterpiece. It's just a masterful album, and Californication would rank right up there as well. That was the first album of theirs I ever got. And whenever all of that was taking place and I was getting into the Red Hot Chili Peppers with Scar Tissue and stuff like that, because you have to remember my age in the 90s. Whenever that album came out, I was 13, 14 years old. It was really cool to, they were one of those bands that for me was the first that I really explored what they had done beforehand and what they were doing right then and there. And so, with that said, Blood Sugar Sex Magic also just includes some of my favorite tracks, and I feel that it's a great diversifying factor between what they were doing in the 80s and what they did afterward. It sort of set up the pretense a little bit. One Hot Minute kind of exposed it a bit more, but that album was just kind of not very well executed. That was the problem with that album. It wasn't necessarily that it was that bad, it was that the execution was really kind of poor. The legend Sidewinder says, if you or someone else were to take a storyline from a concept album and turn it into a book or movie, which album would you choose? Also, are you a fan of any horror films? As it's going to sound like I'm on like the top tier surface. And the reason for this is because the Amory Wars by Coheed and Cambria have already become a form of media outside of just the music. But Metropolis Part 2 Scenes from a Memory is one that I feel that if I could come up with a way to really design the prose very eloquently and give it a little bit of that extra chunk that perhaps is filled more so with music, which is more so the writings of the motion, the writings of setting and things like that, that would be the one that I would choose. But then again, I have a lot of novel ideas that are even more dense and diverse than that. Which is insane that I can't just sit down and write them and become really rich as an author, but I apparently just don't have that skill. But, yeah. Unidentified Shadow asks, favorite metalcore album? Well, metalcore's kind of one that, nah. Shadows Fall. I love Of One Blood. Man, that's just such a really, really good album. It's a really, really good album. Man. Should listen to that tonight. Oz the Sound Chaser. Hey CKN, first of all, I want to thank you for creating consistently informative content as well as introducing me to a variety of great bands. You're very welcome, sir. And your Pika Nathan Explosion avatars, it's smashing. My question to you is, where do you see the gent sound going in the next 5 to 10 years, and do you think there's much potential for evolution within the style? There is a lot of opportunity for evolution because of the sound itself. It's one that can be applied to just about any sound within metal in order to craft something that's a little bit new, or at least has a bit of a different little tint to it. You know, it's like an additive. I feel like it's very much like sugar to the coffee of metal. It's crazy. So, within the confines of its own subgenre, it's going to be the bands trying to find new and creative ways to make the sound poignant, to make the sound potent, to not have that necessarily be the driving force, but still have it be incorporated within the music. Periphery has found ways to do that with some of their recent releases. Tesseract has just gone outside of the realm. It's absurd, but it's something that has worked out very, very nicely for them. There's a very good guide right there. It's almost like they're not even gent anymore. But they still have the opportunity for application if they wanted to. Vincenzo Sarini, I saw you wear a Penguin shirt in a few videos. Are you a pretty big Penguin/hockey fan? Captain Colorado Avalanche here. Yeah, I am. We actually just won a game today, which was surprising. I was actually watching the Daytona 500 whenever I found out that we had won, and I was shocked because I thought we were getting our asses kicked or something. Yeah, I like following the Pens a lot. Whenever they won the Stanley Cup a couple years ago, it happened on my birthday, which was super cool. Greatest birthday present ever. And aside from that, I love Sid the Kid. Really like Malkin. And what's really cool, I don't know his name because I've not been able to follow as closely this year. But there's a guy, and I'm going to look this up here for a second, just right here live. I don't give a fuck. Because he scored a couple of goals. In fact, I think he scored one today. And his name is S. Wilson. I want to know if his name is Steven because that'd be hysterical. I would laugh so fucking hard. Let's find out. What is your name, sir? Come up faster. Do things. I demand it. S. Wilson, who are you? Scott Wilson. Ah, what a piss. Would have been cool if it was Steven. But yeah. I also watched whenever Colorado and Detroit had their big feuds in the 90s. So you may remember those. MV Lamborghini, not my Lamborghini. Shit, though, I wish I had one of those. I'd sell that fucker and get the money. What are some of your favorite movies? The Devil's Advocate, Collateral, a lot of DiCaprio flicks. I haven't seen The Revenant yet, but I want to. But he was great in Catch Me If You Can, The Departed, Wolf on Wall Street. There are many others that if I sat down and thought, I would probably, a lot of Robin Williams too. A lot of Robin Williams. Really loved his work. Just very diverse actor. In fact, his last film, The Angriest Man in New York, was particularly heartbreaking to watch, even though it was very well done. Scotty Cena, and then I think we're going to have one or two more, and that's going to be it. Scotty Cena, if you could make a movie, what kind of movie would you make, and what would it be about? A lot of questions about movies. Very cool. I would want to do a psychological thriller, because I really enjoy those styles of movies, and if I were to do it, it would have a sci-fi element to it as well, where a gentleman decides to go into a machine that has been built. That way people can relive their past and actually take a different course. However, in order to do that, they have to write down the instructions that they need to do, and then of course somehow be convinced that it's the right thing to do in the past, because you're essentially going back to who you were at that time. So imagine a guy that wakes up and there's just a list on his desk of stuff that he knows nothing about. Some things he does because they're immediate, but other things... So think of it this way. Think of it as if he wakes up, he's a dude who's in college, and he says, kiss this girl, take this job, and then marry this girl who and it's a name he's never even known or anything like that. It's really cool to see how this could be affected, and then there's a way to get out, and then, of course, the twist ending is the fact that everybody is living in this sort of universe. It's actually part of the book idea that I was mentioning earlier, and there's more to it than that, but Cliff Notes and plus the movie would be worse than the book. Anyway, Stan Olsen finally asks just a classic question. When you watch porn, do you skip through all the talking, or do you find the dialogue to be entertaining? Stan, it all depends on who's talking and why I give a shit. That's all I'll say. There are some moments where that dialogue is absolutely necessary. Sometimes that's what helps to get the motor running. Other times it's just ridiculous. Like, I'm sorry to say, but I don't need to hear another pizza man say that maybe I can give you a pizza with some sausage. Who fucking cares? You might as well, as a pizza man, just be like, here's your pizza. It's going to get cold because I'm going to take you upstairs, plow you in the ass. A little more direct, a little more to the point. Yes, that's just where I differ from other people. Part 4 is in the books, ladies and gents. I will see you next time for Part 5 of the Q&A. My voice is still raw as fuck, as you can probably tell. Oh well. February is hell. I'll see you later.